Imagine late at night, sitting against a building on the streets of downtown Santa Cruz with little clothing on your back and a single blanket to cover you. You have little food and water and only a couple of dollars. It was the middle of winter and there's no room in the shelters. There are only a couple of people on the streets who are also trying to survive with little amounts of supplies they have. Imagine not knowing where your next meal is coming from. According to HuffPost's 10 Facts About Homelessness, over 1 million people are homeless. Those who are lucky enough not to face this problem can help prevent hunger. Hi, I'm Ava.
I'm Zoe.
And I'm Abby, and welcome to Homeless and the Hungry.
Homelessness and hunger are truly one of, if not the, biggest problem in our society, but so many people are stepping up and trying to provide a solution. Ava, what did you learn from this experience?
Being a high school student and still learning about life, I can take things for granted many times. As I did my project, it opened my eyes and showed me how blessed I am. I went to the streets of Santa Cruz and passed out food. There was a lady in a wheelchair and she only had a couple of things with her. When I gave her some food, looking at her made me feel so bad. I wish I could do more, but I didn't know what.
Did you see any big issues in the homeless community?
Yes, domestic violence is a big issue for homeless, especially toward women. Looking at this helpless old lady in a wheelchair made me realize how amazing I have it compared to others. Many people also end up in the streets because of drugs and alcohol abuse. Doing these things can cause people to lose their jobs, which can result in losing their house and going away from their loved ones. God created us to live in the image of God. God is perfect and flawless. Because of the fall, people turn to other things during these hard times instead of God, like drugs and alcohol. It's our job as Christians to redeem it and help and bless homeless people in any way we can, like giving out food. Sadly, because so many people do drugs, it's not always the best to give them money because they might use it for alcohol and drugs instead of the things they need, like food, water, and clothing. That is why I gave up food. There are many ways to help others in need as we, image bearers, help any way possible.
Many homeless people are starving on the streets with little or nothing to eat. In order to survive, they sometimes need to go through trash to look for food. They also will sit on the streets asking people for money or food. Thankfully, there are many shelters and organizations that pass out food to the homeless.
Many people in the world are starving on the streets with no place to live. Luckily, many people are trying to solve that problem. Zoe, what did you do to help?
I volunteered at a bunny breakfast, a collaboration between Marina Youth Arts, Marina Kiwanis, and Marina High School Care Club to provide free breakfast and activities the day before Easter. It is an event that reached out to the food insecure.
What is food insecurity?
Food insecurity is defined as a lack of consistent access to enough food to live an active, healthy lifestyle by the United States Department of Agriculture. Unlike homelessness, it is hard to identify someone who is food insecure. They don't beg for money. On the contrary, a lot of food insecure people are ashamed of their current state. Food insecurity is caused by poverty. Poverty that in turn is mostly caused by lack of education, disability, like a family member unable to work, or drugs. In a lot of circumstances, families are forced to choose between paying the bills or putting food on the table. I knew a boy who was food insecure at my old school, and no one knew till he got placed in foster care because his parents could not afford to feed him consistently.
That sounds awful. How big is this issue?
Over 40 million people just in the United States are food insecure. It is crucial to address this major issue because of the detrimental effects it has on people living through it. Besides the obvious of going hungry, food insecurity causes so many more issues. It is a leading cause for lack of education because kids are dropping out of high school at 16 so they can work to feed their families. It causes both physical and psychological trauma, which leads to things like obesity, diabetes, anxiety, and depression. My cousins fostered these twin girls who are only 6. They seemed very normal, easygoing, and happy. But when they had access to food, they would eat as much as they possibly could. This was because their parents were on drugs and they would forget to feed them for days at a time. The bunny breakfast I volunteered at was as simple as a few people making pancakes, bacon, and eggs for a few hours, but it made a difference in many people's lives.
Wow, it sounds like you learned a lot from this experience. So what about you, Abby? What did you do to help end hunger?
For my project, I volunteered at the Santa Cruz County Food Bank. The food bank has a mission to help stop hunger in Santa Cruz County by providing those who can't afford food with healthy food for their families for free. The Second Harvest Food Bank is the second healthiest food bank in the nation, and they reach about 55,000 people each month. Hunger is an issue that affects people and their lives.
How can the rest of us help?
Those who are more fortunate not to deal with this issue can help be a part of the solution. Volunteering is a simple and easy thing to do that makes a big impact. Giving back to those who may not know where their next food is coming from gives you a sense of generosity towards those who are less fortunate than you are. With 1 in 9 people struggling with hunger, anyone who volunteers to help solve this issue makes an impact. We are so lucky to have such a big and productive food bank in our area to help solve this issue in the Santa Cruz County. In Isaiah 58:10, it says, "If you pour yourself out for the hungry and satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then shall your light rise in the darkness and your gloom be as the noonday." This verse tells us that if we help those in need, it will give us pleasure in our life. To be made in the image of God means to live out your life how Jesus lived his life. Jesus came to earth to serve us and not himself. Serving others is living our lives how Jesus lived his, ultimately living in the image of God.
Our call to action for our audience is to volunteer in their communities. Even just keeping a few granola bars in your car to hand out to the homeless you see next to the road. You may think it isn't working, that you aren't making a difference, but even if you just curb one person's appetite, you are part of eliminating hunger. Humans are made in the image of God, which means we should treat our fellow human beings as such. No image of God should have to go hungry and suffer from malnourishment. Jesus called us to love God and love others, neither of which we are doing if we are letting people starve. And that concludes the end of episode 1. See you next time on The Homeless and the Hungry.